Well, welcome everybody. I'm Senator Dr. Roger Marshall from the great state of Kansas, and I'm joined by a very special guest today for another episode of Ag Talk with Doc. Today, the pride of Greene County, Georgia, American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall is here. Zippy, welcome, and thanks for joining us. You're out on the road as much as anybody in America is talking to farmers. As the American Farm Bureau President, what are you hearing from your farmers, or what's on top of their minds right now?
What's on top of their mind right now is input cost and availability of the inputs that they're going to get. And so they're concerned about this year, but even more concerned about next year.
And it's not just the price, but it's just the availability. I'm hearing numbers like for nitrogen-based fertilizer, it's quadrupled. Is that what are you hearing?
That's exactly what I'm hearing, and I've experienced that on my own farm. I'm in the beef business and the poultry business in Georgia, 400 cows, and my first fertilization of my hay fields this year cost me as much as it would the whole season. It was 3 times as much for one application.
And I think most people don't understand that you fertilize a crop, typically it's not once, it might be twice or 3 times.
Yeah, we normally cut 3 times, and we'll fertilize in between each time, especially with the nitrogen, and it's up about 300%.
Okay, I want to talk about the environment just for a second. Zippy, I often say that farmers and ranchers were the original environmentalists. Like you said, yeah, you have a cow herd, a beef cow herd. I think you raise some chickens, you do some hay, a 3rd generation farmer. What is America doing today, the American farmer doing today to help our environment? What are you hearing out there?
There are so many things, and you know, we've just really started talking about that in recent years, but for decades our farmers and ranchers have really took advantage of all the conservation programs, comprehensive nutrient management plans, no-till, low-till. We're doing so many things that's better than what our forefathers did, which leaves the environment and our land and air and water in a lot better condition. So, you know, we really need to talk about what we have done and what it takes to move forward, because our farmers are willing to move forward. And that's going to take research and development dollars and opportunities to discover what those new conservation practices are that protect our environment. Because our farmers have already proven that they'll step up and volunteer to do something if it's market-based and based on science.
Yeah, I think just to briefly sum it up is that we're growing more with less than we ever have. So we're using less fertilizers, we're using less water as well, all leading to better conservation practices.
Yeah, we would have had 20 years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, we would have had to have 100 million more acres farmed to be able to produce the same production that we produced last year. So we're doing such a great job on less land, less water, less inputs.
Yeah, and speaking of growing more, America is so dependent on the American farmer to feed it. And we have a war going on in Ukraine. And Americans need to realize about 1/3 of the world's wheat exports pass through that Black Sea. Maybe 20 to 40% of the fertilizers pass through that Black Sea as well. And I know you, like me, were concerned about world hunger, world food insecurity. What are you hearing out there, American farmers being able to respond? Is there any opportunity for greater capacity for the American farmer?
Yeah, you know, I think our limitation is the breakdowns that we've seen in the supply chain. Of course, the war is causing a lot of problems, but a lot of the breakdown or delays in the supply chain, whether it be transportation at the ports, or whether it be on our rivers and waterways, or whether it be on the highways, and lack of drivers for our trucks. So if we can get the inputs in, we can produce a commodity, and we look forward to filling the pantries of not just Americans, but pantries around the world. Our country and our world needs to think about the people that are going to starve in the future if we don't find ways to be more and more productive. And we need to break down those barriers, whether they're trade barriers or whether they're regulations that's getting in the way. We talk about fertilizer. We can produce more fertilizer, but we need to take some of the regulations down so that private-public partnerships can produce more fertilizer here in our country.
Yeah, just to put an exclamation mark on what you said, if we can get more fertilizer, get the fertilizer to the American farmer, we can respond and grow more. But I agree with you, the biggest challenge will probably be at the ports. Our ports are already maxed out. We need people to go back to work and try to open those ports back up as well. Thinking about ports brings me to trade. And I'm very proud of the work we've done on trade in the last 4 years since I've been up here. The USMCA trade agreement, right, I think is working out well. We had some trade agreements with China, with Japan, South Korea that were accomplished the previous four years of the administration. I think those are giving us more opportunities. What opportunities do you see going forward for American agriculture and trade, and what challenges do we have?
Well, we have a great opportunity with Great Britain, of having a trade treaty there, working on the European area and having a trade treaty there. We have the president has a framework around the Indo-Pacific framework, but he lacked having agreements in there that would open markets up for agriculture trade. So we hope that Congress can help encourage him to go back and get those agreements, binding agreements that would open up the markets for our farmers in that area. The USMCA was a great trade treaty. We worked hard with y'all and everyone else to make that happen. Now we got to hold everybody's feet to the fire. We have rules, new set of rules, right, that really was going to be the package of rules that would lead and set an example for future trade treaties. But we got to make sure that Canada and Mexico live up to those rules, whether it be in biotech, receiving biotech commodities and their approval of biotech, or whether it be in dairy in Canada. So I hope that this administration and Congress will help us make sure that those rules are enforced and hold everybody's feet to the fire.
Exactly, and I know that as a senator, we anxiously await for this administration to give us a USTR for agriculture, someone to fill those boots of another Kansan Greg Dowd. So we're waiting on that. Want to turn to a little bit about regulations. This is an issue that I hear from farmers, producers back home as well. They're concerned about this administration expanding the waters of the U.S. They're concerned about how they might use the Endangered Species Act. They're concerned about the EPA on some of the pesticides we're using as well. If the government expands those rules, whether it's the waters of the U.S. or the EPA, how does that impact American agriculture?
It makes it harder for us to do business. It makes it more expensive for us to do business, and that will cause a ripple effect of costing the consumer more at the grocery store. And we need to figure out how we feed more people for less, not figure out how it's going to put burdens on us that it costs more for us to produce it. The waters of the U.S. rule was the largest land grab in the history of our country, and we were able to rewrite that rule, simplify it, take away a lot of the complications, and make a rule that our farmers could live within and provide clean water with clear rules. And now we're going to rewrite and try to fix something that's really not broken.
There we go. Zippy, I want to finish up with this. I know you're a person of faith. I'm a person of faith, and I believe that much is given, much is required. Yeah. And America has been given so much. The American farmer has really been blessed beyond our wildest dreams, that very few people have to wake up in this country concerned about their next meal. And there is some issues of food insecurity out there, and we're trying to address those. But compared to other parts of the world, we're so blessed. Why just give you the platform here, why is American agriculture so important to every American and people across the world?
Well, if you didn't think we were important, why were you alarmed when the grocery shelves went vacant and naked during the first part of our pandemic? Hopefully we never see another pandemic again, and hopefully this one is behind us. But that's how sensitive our food supply is. Food security is national security. Food security is our nation's security, because if we ever have to depend on other countries to feed us, and whether it be a pandemic or a war, we will be in a place where we can't feed our people, and we don't really operate really well when we're hungry, and it really puts frustration and fear in people's lives. We are so blessed here, but we need to continue to remember where that food comes from. It doesn't come from a grocery store. It started somewhere in a field or in a barn across America and rural America, where farmers and ranchers go each and every day to make sure that the pantries of Americans can be filled.
There you go. Zippy Duvall, American Farm Bureau President. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you,
God
Senator.
bless.
God bless you.
Thank you.